Hi, everybody. It's Jill here with Illuminating Women, and today is one of it's our Friday lunch and learn. We say grab your lunch, take 30 minutes, sit down, and while you're eating and nourishing, getting nourishment into your body, this is a great time to get nourishment for your brain and your heart and your soul. And today I am so thrilled, and the timing is so perfect. We are blessed today to have the one and only, the beautiful, vivacious Brenda Reiss, who is a forgiveness coach. And right now, a lot of us are struggling with a lot of things going on, especially with COVID-19. And she's going to teach us about some resilience and to get more peace into our life. And she's been running these Thursday night groups that I went on, and I felt a huge load off my shoulders, and everybody else, because the questions, and we just dove into it. And so she's going to give us some golden nuggets of that and some other things. So Brenda, welcome to this place, and thank you for leading our lunch and learn today.
Absolutely, Jill. Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here. And it's something that I know I've needed myself. I've really turned to my forgiveness tools during this period of time. As you know, we start out all gung-ho. It's like, yeah, we can do this and this, but we go into trauma, or we go into grief, or we go into sadness. And it's like, how do I navigate these? And then we have relationships because we're kind of in these situations that you know, we weren't in before and we can't escape. And then the other part is what's coming up a lot is parents. There's a lot of things coming up with our parents, even if we're not in the same house. There is some resentments and grudges being, you know, brought up. And so we've got this opportunity, what I call an opportunity for healing. So today, though, I want to focus a little bit on, I'm going to talk a little bit about resentments and grudges. Because I think it's important for me, it was important for me anyway, to find out why do we have these? And then we're going to do some 5 steps of self-forgiveness, because in my world, all forgiveness is self-forgiveness, but we got to learn to look at it that way. So I'm going to share my screen. We're going to go through some slides, and we're going to learn a little bit and get a little bit of relief. Sound good? All right. Okay. Today it's going to be self-forgiveness, how to master in 5 easy steps. Let me start it. There we go. I want to start our talk today and tell you a little bit about Anne. Now, Anne is in her 40s, married for the 2nd time. She doesn't have kids because her business and her relationship is her life. She owns her own business and she feels pretty confident in what she was offering, yet she was finding that she was struggling with a few things: her marriage and her relationships with her parents, especially. She had trust issues. She wasn't feeling good enough. She was comparing herself to others, and she was limiting herself from going after the things she really wanted in her life. She felt betrayed, alone in her relationship, and she found herself angry, resentful, and guilt-ridden for having those feelings. You guys ever feel guilty for having some of our emotions? Yeah. Because she really thought she should be stronger. She really thought she should be able to handle it, and she was really tired of it all. So do you have an Anne in your life? Or maybe you have some feelings like that, like Anne does. It was a really profound pleasure to be able to work together and watch her transform and become empowered and peaceful and become a more confident woman in all areas of her life. And this was done by going through a forgiveness process like we're going to be learning today. She was able to create a shift in her thinking, and now she can stand up for herself, and she's released the guilt and the resentment, imagine that was coming up from her past, because that's what it does. She fully participates in her marriage and her relationships, and she's able to be around her parents now without having that guilt and resentment, which is huge. And now she's able to have anticipation for a better future and more relationships, and be able to show up whole and complete. And I was like Anne for a good part of my life. Those patterns and beliefs that were coming up from the past kept self-sabotaging me. And they kept me in a loop, and they kept me playing small. Always the wing person, never the pilot, right? Very codependent in my romantic relationships, which led me into an FBI investigation where I was looking at 7 to 10 years of prison because I signed papers to please my ex, right? And we do that with our our partners or with our parents or with our kids. And, you know, I didn't know it was illegal when I was signing these papers. And fortunately, I didn't go to prison. He ended up going, but it was a 2-year process. So it was a heavy price to pay for my codependence, but a great learning lesson on how I can heal. So the choices that I was making kept me in a victim consciousness, which led to lots of resentments towards others, but really resentful towards myself. I couldn't figure out what my problem was. And forgiveness has allowed me to get the relief from the emotional and the physical pain of the patterns and beliefs I was experiencing. And it helped me figure out where the problem lied. So let's talk about resentments for a minute. Resentments play a huge role in our self-forgiveness and in forgiveness itself, because any resentment that we hold towards another person is really about us. It's about something we have denied, repressed, or rejected about ourselves. That's a big statement. So take a breath on that. And as we go through this, I think it might reveal itself for you. Resentments, we hear, are like poison, right? Taking poison, expecting the other person to die. They really hurt only us. And when we hold a resentment, this is what's happening. We bring anger and bitterness into every relationship and new experience. We become so wrapped up in the wrong that you can't enjoy the present. You can become depressed or anxious, right? Because depression is a held back emotion. Feel that your life lacks meaning or purpose, or that you're at odds with your spiritual beliefs, and you lose valuable and enriching connectedness with others. That's crazy. So why do we hold a resentment? What do we get out of it? Well, according to research by Nancy Collier, who is somebody that I really appreciate, resentments come with an identity. With our resentment intact, we know who we are, a person who was wronged, and there's power in that. With this comes a sense of solidness and purpose, and we feel a rightness and a strength about it. It feeds our anger and our victimhood. Can you feel that? Like when we're right about something? Now, to let go of our resentment, we have to be willing to let go of that identity as the wronged one, and all that rightness and strength and sympathy we are getting, which is the benefit, because we don't hold on to anything without a benefit. But what we are really wanting is to be seen and to be heard and to know we matter. We want to get the comfort and the compassion and the love that we didn't receive in the past, because our resentments usually are not based in the present, right? They come from our past. They come from those hidden beliefs and patterns, probably from childhood. And what happens is this: the resentment keeps us disconnected from our heart. It becomes a story, a construct in our mind of what happened to us and not for us. It feeds that victimhood, which isn't what we want. This resentment then morphs into a boulder that blocks the light of kindness from reaching our hearts and becomes an obstacle to our healing. Can you imagine that? Right there between you, not just a wall, but like a boulder. And this isn't what we want. We really want to be loved, and we want to know we matter. So how do we release these darn resentments and master self-forgiveness? Are you ready? Let's go through some steps. Step 1 is create awareness. Now, we've heard a lot about this, and I want to dive into it a little bit, because we can kind of brush off that awareness word, but it's super important, because we cannot heal unless we know what's there. It's those hidden beliefs and patterns that are showing up for us. A lot of people have an idea that there's a pattern that keeps showing up, but they aren't sure what to do with it, right? So it's what's showing up in our life. That's a way to tell our beliefs and patterns. One of mine was picking unavailable men, okay? And thinking they had the problem. And it gave me power to blame them. Little did I know that it was me that was emotionally unavailable. That was amazing to discover and to heal, so that I can be in a really great relationship today. And another pattern her mind was always jumping to the positive. Now, while yes, that's important to be optimistic, what I was doing was a bypass. And this is what's happening for a lot of people right now, is I'm bypassing my feelings, which isn't healthy for my mind or my body. By doing this, it keeps me in my head and not being in harmony with my heart and my body. And this is how dis-ease happens, right? Is when we're not connected. So to become aware, we have to ask ourselves a question. What do I continue to feel resentment or anger about? We must be willing to be honest with ourselves. Super huge in releasing these resentments. So I'd like you to take a minute and write down just whatever pops into your head. What do I continue to feel anger or resentment about? So an idea would be, what do you get angry at yourself a lot about? What is your self-talk? What behaviors of your like your partner or your kids, what bothers you? What keeps irritating you? And comparison to others is a big resentment. It's an actual resentment because we don't feel worthy. And so we get resentful at other people when it's really us that we can look at. So we'll just take a couple seconds on that. Everybody got a resentment or a little something? Because what we want to do is, you don't have to take too long for this. We don't give too much thought, right? Because it's usually right there, and it's whatever comes to mind first, no matter how owie it feels. So step 2 is willingness. This is the ability to entertain the idea of change. It is through willingness that we can explore these patterns and beliefs without judgment and bring in curiosity. Now, here's a question to ask ourselves. This is really vital. What is this resentment costing me? Now, the cost can be how it affects us mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. Now, this can show up as a lack of energy, time wasted, physical ailments, depression or anxiety, weight gain, because resentments are heavy and stress causes unwanted weight, right? So what is this resentment costing me? What is the cost? How is it showing up in your life? For me, it was all of them, right? It showed up everywhere. It can affect our time, our energy, our money, and our sanity. That's what resentments can do. Even the slightest resentment is a heavy burden. Step number 3 is trusting yourself. Okay, this is a doozy for a lot of us. We don't trust ourselves. We think we do, but we don't. Trusting life, trusting others and ourselves is a huge step forward in the forgiveness process. It is one of those underlying beliefs about safety, right, that continues to sabotage us in our efforts to expand our business, take more risks, and step into who we truly are. The reason we have trouble trusting could be that we fear rejection or being shamed. And this could be because we were in the past. We've learned to put on masks and to hide parts of ourselves away because we don't trust that our authentic self is good enough or lovable enough, or that we wouldn't mess up and get shamed, which doesn't feel very good because we've been there. Speaking of wearing masks, I used to pride myself in being a chameleon, in wearing these masks, right? I would show up and I would be whoever I needed to be for that person or those groups. Little did I know that that was part of the codependence and my need for approval and to be loved, to feel worthy, and that I really needed to be me no matter what. And sometimes we think we're being us, but we're not when we bring in that awareness, because we hide parts of ourselves when we have to show up for other people, when we don't really even want to show up. We need to be taking care of ourselves, but we think we have to do this over here. That's a resentment waiting to happen. So is there any self-doubt or any holding yourself back, fear of looking bad or failing? If you imagine yourself living fully out loud, is there any expectation of rejection, misunderstanding, or shame? So these are the things that we get to take a look at with gentleness and with self-compassion for all that we've gone through and all that we've mastered in our lives. Instead of looking at things as failures, look at them as what you've mastered. So like I've mastered marriage, right? I'm on the 4th one. So I'm pretty good at it, right? I think I'm a pretty good master. So I'd like you to write down 3 things that you are afraid to show others or have others know about you. So maybe, you like to cuss, right? Or you hold yourself back from having fun, or you're messy, you have clutter, or the opposite, where you need to have everything in its place, or you don't wear pants on Zoom calls. Some people are ashamed of that. I'm not. So let's take a minute and write anything down, even just one little thing about what you think that you are afraid to show other people, because we all know it's that little secret that we hold. Mine was clutter. I'm visual, but when I get overwhelmed, I pile things instead of putting them away, which adds to my overwhelm. And so I've been really clearing that out, and oh my God, is it amazing for how it helps me feel. Now, for every one of those little things that you wrote down, I want you to write down something that you love about that part of you. So what can you embrace and trust about yourself within that item that you wrote down? Okay. So what feeling does it give you to own those parts of you that you don't share with others? So for me, learning to look at it differently, not negatively, right? Not in a what I would call a bad way, but the clutter means I'm visual and I'm creative, right? I need to see everything, because if I put it away, I didn't want to lose it. So it helps me, if I look at it, if I try to reframe it, how can it be reframed? And so if you cuss a lot and you don't want to share that with people, that can be looked at as a sense of freedom. It gives me freedom. When I say the F word, it gives me a lot of freedom. It does. I feel better, right? So how can we take what we look at, what we're hiding, what we might feel shame about, and what can we love about it? This is a big step in the forgiveness process. It's learning the compassion piece. And this might take a little thought, but I really encourage you to do this because it's so valuable in learning to love ourselves. And step 4 is self-responsibility. The R word. Here's that R word. Being responsible is about getting clear on what you believe, what you value, setting boundaries, not only with others, but also inner boundaries for yourself. And the one way to do that is to know your core values, right? When you know your core values, you identify what's important, and then you can feel it when things are out of alignment. This means that when you feel like you've made a mistake or an error yourself, or you're wronged by others, right? Or somebody is saying to you, you're not good enough, or you don't do this right, or how come you never call me? Or you don't call me enough, or whatever, you know instantly because it feels out of alignment with you. This also helps reaffirm to yourself that you can handle situations so they feel good to you. This grows your confidence and your self-esteem, which means less negative self-talk in here and more acceptance and love for yourself in your heart. So what would be your top 3 core values for living an authentic life for you? Some people know them right away. Some people keep the same ones, and sometimes they change. Mine has a tendency. I keep the same about 3 because mine are truth, courage, and forgiveness. Those stay the same. So out of these examples here, and maybe you already know yours, what are your core values that you feel really good about and that you can use as a filter, right? So when you make decisions, when you're trying to decide, do I need to take care of myself? If I have self-care as a core value, then I have to say no to other people when maybe a part of me is trying to say yes, but I have to say no if I know that I'm tired, if I know that I've overextended myself. And it can be hard with family, but it's important with family. And then number 5 is taking action. Movement and choices bring freedom. Forgiveness is a choice. Choosing to take action and forgive yourself and others is a really bold move. Bold. It means choosing differently and consciously creating your life. Taking action and forgiveness can be one of the boldest things you ever do, and so worth it. So we have 2 questions to close out our time today. And the first one is, what is it that I really want? Think back to that resentment in the awareness section, that first one that you wrote down. And I want you to think about, what is the unspoken need that you feel is underneath that resentment? What is that unspoken need? Many people will answer the question, to be loved, to be seen, to know I matter. And whatever your answer is, it's perfect. This is important for us to know, to really get real with ourselves, because that's what this time is about. This time is about getting real with ourselves and not hiding the sadness, not hiding that maybe I haven't been taking care of myself, ladies, right? Maybe I have been going and doing, but really, I just need some time. I just need to hug. I just need to be held. I need to be loved. I needed to be appreciated for who I am. And really acknowledging that, really knowing that, because that affects every area of our life. It affects our business. It affects our relationships. It affects how we show up with other people. And the second question is, how might forgiving these resentments benefit me? So we really don't do anything unless there's a benefit. Even if we're holding on to a resentment, there's a benefit in there, right? I feel strong. I feel like I'm right. Well, if I forgive, there's got to be a benefit too, right? So some people will say it's peace of mind, more creativity, more energy, be happier in their relations, show up more in their life and business. As I started to forgive myself, I was able to have all of that, more energy, peace of mind. And when I start to get bogged down again, I know that I have work to do for myself. I got to clean up my little dust bunnies, right? That's what I call them, these little resentments or these little grudges that happen, especially about myself. When I start that talk, the possibilities are endless. So in conclusion, what we talked about resentments and how they can affect us, right? And that they are really about ourselves and something that we have denied, repressed, and rejected about us. These resentments can be small, but they take up space in our minds, right? And that's where it happens. And it kind of takes up space in our hearts, and it can hold us back. So we went through 5 steps that you can take yourself through to master self-forgiveness. 1 is create awareness. 2 is willingness. 3 is trusting yourself. 4 is responsibility. And 5 is taking action. When you take the time to go through these steps with a resentment at ourselves, or even when we're thinking about other people, we give ourselves a gift of freedom from the past. Our resentments are based on past conditioning. Our conditioning had its purpose. And now it's a resentment because it's ready to be looked at and let go of. This way we can choose how we want to live our lives in the present moment instead of being sideswiped by our past. So on the right-hand side of this slide right here, you're seeing a 4-step process on this bookmark. It's a bookmark that I give out, and I love this 4-step process. When you're willing to take these 5 steps, you can then look at this and go, oh, whenever we feel a little resentment or a grudge, you can say to yourself, look what I created. I notice my judgments and love myself anyway. I am willing to see the perfection in the situation, and I choose the power of peace. You don't have to know why or how. Just when you say those 4 things, even if several times, so I got to, even through gritted teeth, you know, it makes a huge difference. And I'd like to share a definition of forgiveness. That is my definition. Forgiveness is not just about getting rid of anger and resentment. Forgiveness is about cultivating an environment of acceptance and allowance so that you can create the life that you were designed to live. It's not just about the past, ladies. It's about owning our present. And what we've got to do, though, is get rid of those dust bunnies so that we can be present, so that we can move forward for the future. That's what we're here to do. We're here to own our power and be who we are, regardless. Feeling the feelings, being able to work through them, and then being able to harness that acceptance and allowance so we can move forward. So I want to thank you. And there is a little free gift that you can go to BrendaReissCoaching.com/forgiveness-brings-freedom. And it's a mandala to color about forgiveness. And infused in the mandala is the words I forgive. And it's really helped me a lot. And I just really thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, Brenda, be sure to type that in the chat box, please, for anybody that your website. You know, before we stop the video and can have a little chit chat here, so we can get personal and dive and ask some deeper questions. One of the things that I love that you said, again, every time I feel a lightness. I don't know if anybody else felt it, but I could feel a lightness inside of myself just in this process. But I love the fact that Brenda has chosen a phoenix as her logo, because a phoenix dies from the ashes rises up again. And, you know, we sit there and go, dang it, I'm in this pattern again. I'm resenting this again. I don't, you know, and it's like we can even beat ourselves up over that, right? And it's not a time to beat ourselves up. This is the time to know that from the ashes rises this beautiful phoenix, and it is work. And it does take, you know, to think about those things and to look at that and to walk through that a little bit deeper and a little bit richer. And that was some ahas. And I love the first one was being aware and catching ourselves at that time, and the responsibility piece. There's still, this is what's great about this being recorded, is I get to go back and look at it and see it again. So Brenda, I want to thank you again. Thank you everybody for joining for our Lunch and Learn. Us ladies are going to stay on a little bit longer and dive a little deeper here. And I just wish everybody a true release and greater peace in your life. And reach out to Brenda if you're struggling with anything. This woman is phenomenal. The people who have worked with her have made strides that made enormous differences in their health and in their families and all that they do. So thank you again, Brenda, and peace everybody, and take very good care. Bye-bye.